conversation. It's the conversation. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's go. Let's go. No filter, no restrictions. You about to get my opinion in its purest form. So my words, don't try to spin them. What I said is what I said, and what I said I meant it. The gloves are off now when I'm coming out swinging. So engage in verbal combat, but you better be ready. Cause this here for me is light work, even if the topic's heavy. I'm ready for it all with no running from nothing. You just take the time to digest what I put in, no rushing. But time is moving, don't waste it. You want the real, come and face it. Come sit and talk to me if you want it straight without a chaser. And it might burn a little when you step on up to taste it, but it's nothing harsh, I promise. Just a little conversation.
All right, we're back. Welcome to the conversation with Harold and Dave. I'm Keone. There's Dave, and of course, as always, there's Harold, or for at least as long as we have him.
Aren't we dressed nice today?
He's got that purple on.
We stepped it up a bit.
We all know what that means.
Look at this.
Well, we got to represent. That's what we got to do.
Is there an Alabama boat brawl you need to go break up this weekend?
Hey, just in case, always stand on ready.
Oh, we've got so much to talk about since the last time we've been here. That's the one thing about it just keeps going every day, and we meet twice a month. So we'll start off with something already passed. Dave, I heard you were at the No Kings rally.
Yes, I was in Augusta, Maine. I was the only frog there. I got the inflatable frog costume, and I was there. And I was like, surely there will be others. No.
So you were out there with the Antifa people and the terrorists and the anti-Americans?
No, I didn't see no anti-Americans, but I did walk in. I was like, okay, where are the paychecks from George Soros being handed out, and of course we don't even need. I think most people don't even believe that. I mean, you have to be the most diehard Trumper to believe that.
So there wasn't a stack of pre-made signs and piles of bricks for you.
That idea, the pre-made signs, because I have never seen crappier handmade signs. I mean, just everyone I'm like, seriously, could we put a little bit more effort into these signs? They're very witty, mind you, but there seemed to be people were competing to have obviously handmade, homemade, distinctive signs. Everyone had a different sign because they're all iconoclasts. And so that was the thing. That's the criticism that just fell the most flat, because very few people had pre-made signs. There were a few, but that they bought on the internet or something. But it was the opposite of that. Everyone was doing their own thing. Very, very pleasant crowd. I leaned into the inflatables. I was the only frog, but there were other inflatables out there because it's just absurd, and everyone there is aware that it's the right vibe. And that's the vibe that was there, right? It was, people were happy. People were, and it really, we had a few folks go by and flip us the bird and, waving Trump things. And it was funny because we couldn't have cared less. I mean, there was a levity to the moment, and it was a very happy, positive event. That is why there were no arrests of No Kings protesters anywhere.
That's funny because there were arrests during the and there was a couple of spots of violence, but it was all people who weren't part of the actual protest. It was MAGA people antagonizing people in the protests. And I love the video of the guy that was chasing and fell down and skint up his whole face. And he's learned his lesson. He kept chasing.
In fairness to that guy, some skater dude stole his glasses.
Well, no.
The guy who fell down and face planted.
I saw the whole video. No, there's no fairness to that guy because I saw the whole full length video. The reason why he wouldn't have got his glasses stolen if he wasn't walking down the street flipping off
with
people,
his buddies
calling
from New York.
him the F word that rhymes with maggots. So when you antagonize people and something happens to you, I'm not going to say in fair.
There is that.
Yeah.
But just being upfront on it. I will tell you this: at the Augusta protest, we're there and we're on. What we did is we lined the Memorial Bridge, this huge bridge that goes over the Kennebec. It's really up high, and it's a big, huge bridge, and we lined both sides, and yay! And we're out there. You're in the middle of this bridge. This bridge is like half a mile long, right? So I'm out in the middle of the damn thing in a stupid freaking hot frog suit in the sun. Like, it's May and October. It's still hot. And suddenly the traffic stops. And we're all like, what the hell? Because we're sitting there waving to people. And that's what we're doing, right? And after a while, people got in the road and they said, get out of the road, get out of the road. Finally, I walked off because I needed to take my jacket off. I needed to kind of strip down because I was hot, and get a drink of water. And I said, hey, what's going on? Why the traffic stop? Apparently, someone had rolled up, a counter protester had rolled up and started getting into an altercation with people, with protesters, and produced a gun. At which point, the constabulary of Augusta shut that shit down, cuffed and stuffed that dude, and took him away. And I saw that happened in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and Myrtle Beach as well. And so, we had, that's the kind of stuff. That's where the anger is. But we were all, I got to say, the vibe at these things has become lighter, and I think I really feel that we moved in that direction. And I also want to just, my impression is that the counter protesters were kind of singletons. They're kind of they're bitter enders, but there wasn't an organized counter protest. There wasn't a group of people. It was individuals, angry individuals in their cars, basically.
Right. There wasn't any big group formations and all of that. Harold, it's gotten to the point we've seen protests. Protests have always been villainized by people who don't agree with the protesting, whether it was during civil rights, whether it's BLM, whether it's women when they were marching for feminism, but especially now, it's the need to villainize what people are protesting for, and then calling the irony is calling it anti-American when the whole point of being American is because you're in a country where you're allowed to freely protest.
Well, I mean, it's, when people know that they're wrong, they want to change the narrative, bottom line. And so many times you'll see those on the opposing side trying to find a narrative that they can try and create to make it seem as if this act of civil disobedience is unnecessary, or it's wrong, or in some way, shape, or fashion isn't something that needs to be done either at that moment or ever or at all. And so, unfortunately, I looked at the attention that was given to No Kings by the opposers. I'll put it that way. And they tried to downplay it. Oh, it only had this many people, only that many people. And then when they found out how many million people were a part of all of these different gatherings, now they want to look at, okay, well, wait a minute. I'm mad at this person in this administration over this department because they didn't respond the way that I needed them to respond to try to disperse or destroy or distract from these protests, And so, unfortunately, rather than us being truth sayers in this pseudo-Christian nation, we've normalized lying to the point to where, it's almost acceptable today. You expect nothing more than a lie to be told, regardless of which side of the fence you're on, as opposed to us being receiving open and honest information and dialogue from those out there, like I said, regardless of which side of the fence you sit on. So,
yeah, Dave, what happened to the art of lying? There's no art in it anymore. There's no, at least
straight up lies.
There used to be an art to the lying.
It used to be you would get caught in it, and the lie would be worse than than what the truth. And it used to be that credibility was important. and we've really seen, just the out and out outlandish lies. All of these people, 7 million people, are Antifa. First of all, Antifa isn't even a thing.
Right.
And we don't hate America. We're not radical left terrorists. I mean, the hyperbole has just gotten so that to the point that it could not possibly be true, right?
What, you
You're
haven't seen the
exaggerating
Antifa
beyond
headquarters?
anything, so you can't be taken literally. And it's unfortunate, right? And there's a reason that you used to try to be credible. And in a lot of relations, it's especially for the government, it's important to be credible. It's important to have credible information, statistics. The Federal Reserve, just in lowering rates, they noted, hey, we are doing this without Bureau of Labor Statistics uh, data on employment, because they fired the person and they can't get their act together to even try to release numbers. And if they release the numbers, you know, we don't know what we'd think about them. And we went from having what they called gold standard data, to having to fill in the blanks. And so the Fed is like, hey, we don't know that we're going to be able to make decisions in the future. We're going to have to be cautious because we don't have data. And little things like that here and there, they add up, and they really, they're going to eventually weigh down a lot of government performance.
Well, here's some statistics for you. Since the Hegseth speech with the generals, over a dozen have resigned or been fired. The admiral for Southcom, I remember I called you. He resigned. One of the most admirable appointees. He hasn't even been in command for a year yet, and he resigned because one of the things was he's not going to sit here and blow up fishing boats. Was one of his responses. But we've had the Joint Chief of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, General David Alvin, Admiral Alvin Hosley, General Thomas Busseret, General Brian Fenton, Air Force General Timothy Hugh, General James Slife, Admiral Linda Fagan, Lieutenant General Jennifer Short, Lieutenant General Joseph B. Berger, Lieutenant General Charles Plummer, Navy Vice Admiral Soshana Chatfield. I'm hearing a lot of female general names in here, which is sad because of how hard they've got to work to be general, and they're resigning or getting
Well,
fired.
and
It's
look at the number of black generals and admirals that were in that
yeah,
mix too. You know,
uh,
It-
it's crazy. This is never and you have the stupid people, of course, that have no idea. Going, well, that's great. They don't want to be in here during the tough times, and they're just uh, Democrat supportists anyway, and we'll replace them. Yeah,
there's
because
no
that's how being a
general
general works.
support.
Yeah,
I mean, they're the centrist crowd. I mean, again, there's no understanding in MAGA of a loyal of people who aren't driven by their biases. There's no understanding of a loyalty to an institution, to norms of nonpartisanship, and the good public servant concept, which the military has always epitomized. And but there's no room in that. It's all, you have to be us or you're evil, right? You're on our side or you're evil. And that's not an exaggeration, because they say evil. They freaking say it about
the evil
these.
within, the evil within. Harold, do you know what would happen? Because I've seen comments of people saying, why don't these generals just band together and take over the country? And well, before I respond, what's your response to that, Harold? Because I'm laughing for a reason.
Well, I mean, when I look at it, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, the largest Antifa organizations are probably our U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard.
Huh?
Because again, you guys pledge to the what?
Constitution.
Constitution. Exactly. So if they're looking for Antifa, they need to start there. and see how it may or may not work out for them. But the sad part about it is, when you sit up and draw these types of lines, you really create even a greater divide within our country. Because those of you that stood, that took the oath, that served, you know, you know the true essence and the true reason and what you ascribed to when you served and took the oath and held the oath up to its highest levels. However, a lot of younger soldiers may not necessarily see and understand it to the depth that you, who served faithfully for the number of years that you put in. Uh, and so I think that's a number of reasons. The same reason why, even now, I think last night I saw an ad that said join ICE, but then you're hearing that there are certain people that are being hired, even if you apply, certain types of people are being hired to carry out, quote unquote, that illegal responsibility. And they're going to discriminate against who gets into those positions and receive those perks. But it's not about trying to do what's necessarily right or what the Constitution would allow. It's about carrying out a particular narrative and really setting the stage for 2028. And that's where my focus has been, because at the end of the day, this whole notion of being, whether they want to call you Antifa, whether they want to call you a lib or whatever they want to call you, they have their reason, their rhymes, and their rationales. But nonetheless, it's about trying to do what's right, what's in the best interest of this country and the people who reside here and have the rights that are afforded to them by the U.S. Constitution. So,
things that are being done are said to be in the best interest of this country.
well, ask farmers.
Dave,
That's the case.
I'm back before we move on
Oh,
from
I'm
the
sorry.
military. No, you're fine. Before we move over from the military aspect, was this people don't understand the amount of knowledge that is lost when when a freaking sergeant leaves the army, you're losing knowledge. You're going to talk about a freaking general in these mass numbers leaving. I wouldn't want to get into a conflict with anyone else around the world right now with the amount of leadership that's falling to the wayside. And I think people don't understand who make those comments. I can't find, unless Dave, you tell me, you're more of a historian than I am. Tell me what country has been successful after their military takes over.
Well,
I mean, and
Turkey.
successful is relative,
I
but
mean,
you know what I'm, you know where I'm
there
going.
are actually
Yeah,
a
I mean,
number of
yeah.
countries that did very well when their military took over. Turkey, I think, being the poster child for that. There is a thing called modernizing militaries, but it won't
Oh,
happen in the
we could
United
take
States.
those. We could take those. There's probably a handful, but then what do they always say? For every one that worked, there's the
Right.
50 that did it.
The thing is, though, it's simply not in the cards for the U.S. We don't have a military caste in
Mhm.
our society that
Right.
could be powerful. In other countries, the military is representative of a segment of the society
Mhm.
and would and that's where you see people taking over, and then they run the country for that segment of the society. Hafez Assad represented the Alawites, I believe it was, in his society, and so uh, uh, you have that, and we just don't have that. And also the military, even the people who are critical of the military. There's one woman who likes to knit, and she comments on cults, and she's written books. She studies cults, and she says the U.S. Army is a cult, and which a lot of us will have a problem with. But even in her point of view, when she says it, says, look, this is a cult. It's not a cult built around a charismatic leader. It's a cult built around an idea. And she's like, so the military is not going to violate that idea because they would lose their identity. And so they're gonna soldier on until you kill the idea, but then you kill the whole thing. So there's a lot of different things that go on there. Uh, the thing that you're likely to get is malicious compliance. You're likely to get back channeling through retired admirals, and there are interest groups that are there. I don't know. It's a lot of generals have resigned, but there's a good turnover. We've got a bench. We've got a deep bench for our officers. They are, like I say, very highly educated, very professionally trained, and I think you're going to see. I'm. It's alarming that we have this. It's representative of the vacuousness of the leadership at the Pentagon. The worst ever Secretary of Defense, and Congress ain't changed the name yet, so it's still the Department of Defense. They're cosplaying, right? But that just goes to the level of how inept that leadership is, right? And how vacuous and symbolic they are. And Pete Hegseth, he's just out there just making mistake after mistake after mistake. And so they aren't, I would say we can guarantee the military is not going to be an enthusiastic supporter of Trump authoritarianism, right? So you could take that aspect off when they talk about using the military in the US. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. They'll stop that. They'll shut that down. And they just won't do it. And remember when the Russians had a coup and they sent their tanks out, they sent their military out, and the military went out and said, we aren't shooting anybody. And Boris Yeltsin climbs up on the tanks that are surrounding his his building and uses them as a podium, right? That's that's what you've got to have the compliance, you've got to have the military on board with you if you want to be a good authoritarian regime. They ain't ever going to do it.
They ain't never going to do it. Plus, who, like I said before, who the heck is going to be in charge? Is it the leader of the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force? Who's in charge? That's another battle you would have to deal with. It's just not the way people draw things up in their head. But since we made this topic, one thing that is happening is coming up soon is SNAP is getting cut off. We've already been cutting off certain things from welfare, and people get mad because they say you make everything racist, but it's been made racist. When we talk, not us, but when people have historically talked about welfare, food stamps, who do they normally talk about?
It's been the dog whistle.
Huh?
It's been the dog whistle. Not only are you usually talking about it, you talk about welfare queens and people on welfare as code for Black people.
They showed the picture of the Black mom with the 4 kids or the Black mom with the 6 kids, and that's what they showed, not realizing that over 67% of people on welfare are Caucasian, and 38% of that 68% are from red states in the South, which is just funny to me. But they keep falling for fake stats. I was talking to Dave about a stat that was on X today that said most welfare money comes to number 1, illegal immigrants, number 2, Arabs, number 3. It was like Haitians, number 4, just all of the, and I'm like, and you had people commenting, the government spends so much money on illegals and I'm starving. And I'm just sitting here, and I literally put in the message, you guys can't be this old and be this dumb. Where is the illegal center that illegal people can just walk up and get food stamps?
How do you mail the money? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't have to.
No, well, it doesn't, because they're confirmed in that belief, and it takes hard, it takes material effects in the world to shift this. And we are about to see massive material impacts on a lot of people's lives. SNAP stopping, right?
They didn't know that some of them, from the videos I've been seeing from a lot of white Southerners who were complaining on Twitter and X and YouTube the last couple of days, didn't understand that snaps and food stamps were the same thing. Just like they didn't understand Affordable Care Act and Obamacare was the same thing.
And when it stops, they're going to learn. When the healthcare goes up, right?
Mhm.
Chuck Schumer is just talking about this. November 1st, right? That's Saturday,
Yeah.
right? The shit's about to hit the fan. SNAP is going to stop. The premiums on healthcare for 21 million people are going to go up. And I heard numbers, it's like over $1,000 a month increase, right? It varies by state. And in
Mhm.
Tennessee, like for a family, like a $23,000 increase. And so disproportionately in red states, because what the benefits that aren't permanent and that weren't extended in the big beautiful bullshit bill were for the Medicaid expansions that were accepted in COVID, ones that had happened earlier on, under Obamacare and original ones, they're permanent. They've been written into the code. The ones that they did in COVID sunset. They ran out and they needed to be you know re
Authorized.
extended or made permanent, and those are all disproportionately in red states.
Mhm.
So 75% of the folks who are going to have this huge increase are in red states. And it is $1,000. This is about what we're talking about. What family has an extra $1,000 lying around? And remember, we're talking about people of moderate means,
Mhm.
right? They make too
Right.
much money to be qualify for regular Medicaid,
Mhm.
but not enough, and so, yeah,
Yeah.
these folks, these are
Next.
exactly that sweet spot for the MAGA, the people that you think should like Trump and who are saying, "Hey, I make too much money for government assistance, but I'm poor and I'm left behind." And that's right there. That's right, and so that's a heat-seeking missile for red state support. Not to mention the snap ain't going to do anyone any good.
That's why, Harold, I can't decide if Marjorie Taylor Greene's little turn here is authentic or she just knows her constituents are about to be pissed the hell off.
Well, she's known for. I mean, all of them know the impact that it's going to have on their respective constituents. They know.
Mhm.
They may choose to ignore it. They may choose not to allow it or to try to suppress it, not amplify it. But they know exactly the impact it's going to have on each of their respective constituents.
Mhm.
If you look again, there was one gentleman, I think it was on TikTok, he had a video. He said, "Listen, why doesn't America allow people to receive what they voted for? In other words, if this party is voting to do X, Y, Z, and if you voted for that party, your vote is recorded and you get those benefits. If you voted against those things, then you don't get them." And I guarantee you, if that was possible or feasible, that would change the whole voting narrative. And a lot of these people who are benefiting from things, again, you got Arkansas farmers and Missouri farmers now having fits about them losing an entire industry, meaning they're selling their soybeans to China. And now Argentina is selling their soybeans to China. And we're getting ready to give, if we haven't already done so, them $40 billion to bail them out
It
or
was
loan them or
it
whatever,
was 20
whatever
and now
the term is.
it started off as 20 and now it's up to 40.
Right.
Okay, and I do have to say on this one,
This is
um,
long, but
I hate to be the the
Argentina
professor.
was already
It's
selling to China, but they were
yeah.
Brazil and Argentina were second and three. We were number one, but now they're
right.
about to be number one.
The
That's
the
the
art
story.
the
Yeah,
soybean
but
thing,
we're
absolutely
zero.
right.
We're
This is
zero now.
a stupid thing.
Yeah.
The 20 billion, that's a credit. That's a currency swap. So what we've done is from an account that we have to do exactly this sort of thing. We bought $20 billion of pesos. Now a peso is worth an Argentine peso is worth 7/100ths of a penny. Uh, so there's 1,437 pesos to the dollar. So that's a crap ton. I don't even know what number that would be, but we bought a lot of pesos. It is a loan that we are expecting to get paid back at a future date. The additional 20 billion is the U.S. trying to get private folks to coordinate loans. And so, in a way, that whole line of argument is, the people who are complaining about that, they don't, when you understand how these swaps work, it isn't a big deal. In some ways, we probably will not lose that money. We usually are going to make interest.
Yeah, but here's the thing: what you're saying, even if they understand that, when you say you, do you mean me? And secondly, if you're losing your farm and all that right now, you don't care about the explanation.
Well, again, MAGA has gone into, don't care about the facts. We don't care about nuances. And also, by the way, most politicians understand that. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. Nobody's got time to listen to a frickin' asshole professor like Dave explain all this shit, right? They just hear we gave money to another country. This is why God made the IMF. This is why we have international organizations that we give money to on a regular basis. That's not a decision, a discretionary thing. We just give it to them, and then they give the aid, and we don't take the heat.
But
A
you have to
competent
realize
politician would know to do it that way.
But you have to realize too, even with that being said, it also depends on who you are that's listening to this information. If you're a soybean farmer, the reason why you don't care about the information is because you're giving money to my direct competitor and I don't have a deal. That's the only thing that matters right there. You think I give a damn that they're giving $40 billion or whatever to Argentina? No, I don't. But if it was something that, if it was my direct competitor, then I might have an issue with it, no matter what the reason. Even being told that was my point. Not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that was my point. And we already know they can easily be told whatever they want. Me and you have had uh, a little tiff about that. Reese what's that word? I lost my train of thought. Reese Waters is a show I like to watch. I watched some of the comments when he was covering this episode, and some people made some points as if you don't work, you don't eat. People on Snap are working, and that's the problem. The belief that 40 million people are lazy instead of the reality that millions of Americans are exploited. That was one comment from Solomon, Missouri. The question isn't why there are over 40 million Americans on SNAP. The question is why so many people who are gainfully employed make so little that they qualify for it. Someone was responding to someone else. Like I said before, racism is very expensive. The darkness is finally coming to light. And the last comment, that won't pop up here. I really love the fact that Ronald Reagan convinced white America that the majority of aid for poor families was received by black families. Ignorance and racism are costly. Enjoy. I remember actually being in elementary school when it's crazy. I don't know why I remember that when he said, he didn't say those exact words, but that was what he was leading to. And my freaking teacher had a meltdown while this was being said on TV. FYI, in case nobody knew, all 435 members of the House receive $79 a day for food. I am on public assistance in New York. I get $238 a month in EBT food benefits, which works out to $7.93 per day. Does anyone else see a problem here? Congress receives almost $9 million per year to eat on taxpayer dollars. Wake up, America.
Well, I think also the challenge here is the timing of everything. You're in a government shutdown. SNAP benefits are going to, be halted or potentially be halted, which according to, and I forget her name, she was a representative who was being interviewed, but she said, really, the money is there. It's a matter of, will Trump release the funding that's already been allocated for SNAP and for those SNAP benefits? But when you're looking at him being so friendly with Argentina and then neglecting the American people, that doesn't hit very well and doesn't sit very well. And so I think that's what's aggravating this whole process more so than anything else. It's the timing of it, with all that's going on. And so it gives the impression that this whole America First agenda is benefiting Argentina more than it is Americans.
Well, it's supposed to benefit us when we get the loan repayment, but I think the Argentina thing is again pissing off a certain group of people in a certain line of employment. I know a whole bunch of people have no idea what we're talking about when we mention what's happening in Argentina. One of the comments that I want to focus on the most is, again, we talk about messaging. Dave, you've talked about messaging, Harold, and Dave has talked about when skewing statistics and numbers to make people believe something. It's always been, I've been hearing this since I was a kid. If someone's on public assistance, they're lazy, they don't want to work, they're just sucking up the government money and all of that. 40 million Americans that are on SNAP. That's just the 40 million that are on SNAP. There's more than that. All work. So that person brings up a great point. It's like when you go to a restaurant. What are you supposed to do when you pay your bill? What's that thing they expect you to do? Tip, right? Because we don't pay servers a living wage in America. But if you go to Italy, if you go to a lot of foreign countries, you don't tip. Why? They pay them enough to live. They're not making millions of dollars, but they pay them enough to where they can go and buy groceries. There's no way that you should work a job for 8 hours. And if what you got paid that day for 8 hours, if you go into a grocery store and buy eggs, a carton of milk, and some bread, that's almost your entire paycheck for that day.
Mm.
That's insane. Dave?
Hey.
Well, no, I mean, the thing about it is it used to be skewing statistics, it used to be misrepresenting. Now it's just out and out lies, right? I mean, the things that are coming out of the White House, out of the government, just absurdities, on the face of it. And at sometimes though, like I say, we look at this administration, and I say it's a lie, but for something to be a lie, they'd have to know the truth. And so I sometimes wonder to what extent these efforts believe this stuff, and Trump is fed a diet. It's there's lying to the public, and then there's lying to the principal in your organization. And I think we have a lot of that going on. And we have a lot of I don't know the extent. I mean, how would Trump know who showed up at the No Kings protest? We get the sense that he did see the Fox News coverage because he mentioned old people, right?
Yeah.
But we know he's been shown out of date video of Portland because of things he said that are images that were in the COVID era video. And so we have this weird thing of like, one, are you skewing the public, or are you out and out lying? And two, are you lying to yourself, right? Is the Trump administration lying to itself, or is Stephen Miller and Russ Vought at OMB, are they managing a misinformation campaign to manipulate Trump in the White House, who is increasingly, I think, cognitively challenged and being indulged with concerns? Some things he's very active in. He's mercurial, right? I mean, even if he's not imbecilic, right, he is nevertheless he focuses on things. So he focuses on the ballroom. Let him do the ballroom. He's focusing on his trips. We sent him on the trip. He's going to get glad handed. He's going to be given these replica crowns. He's going to be treated like a king. That's going to make him happy. Meanwhile, we can do what we want back here. I think a lot of that is going on. So the lying is going in a couple directions at this, or the misrepresenting and the distortions of reality are going in a couple directions, I think, at this point.
I think it's all of those things. I don't think everything that you said. I think it's all of that. I think it's him. I think it's people in the administration. I think it's all of that. And he's the first president that doesn't well, I say don't understand, but I think he understands the weight of his words. Again, I'm going to segue into something. You talked about being shown Portland videos from 5 years ago. when he was at the UN, he talked about, because for some reason he's got to talk so badly about London, but this is one of the clips from the LBC talking about that exact same thing.
Here is the mayor, here is the president of the United States of America telling lies about the most successful, the most electorally successful city mayor in the history of this country.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that.
That's a lie that was doing the rounds on social media 10 years ago. In fact, the original clip or the original quote described it as Shakira law. And we used to laugh about that. And we're not laughing now. Because when the most powerful man in the world tells lies like that, it matters.
It does. People are like, wow, he's just, you know, I don't know if you know the mayor of London, but he is literally had the longest term as mayor, and it's the most successful mayor in London history. And of course, he's an immigrant. So that's, well, he's the son of immigrants, which is ironic. But that's crazy. But that just I had that in there, but I didn't know that that segue was going to come up when you mentioned that. You can just show him stuff. We already saw the fake tattoo on the knuckles that was poorly photoshopped, that even your youngest nephew or granddaughter or son can tell it's fake. You know, we've had.
I don't think they meant that. I think they were just had those numbers there to draw attention to him, like a caption. I don't think they even the people that made that slide thought he would think it was actually literally there. You know,
he thought it was there, and then they
It
thought
didn't
that
matter.
symbols meant, and it was like it did. But like you said, it didn't matter. The credibility. It doesn't matter. Let's just run with it. No one's gonna correct it. You know, you correct it when that happens. But here we go, talking about that. He's talking about a thing that I laughed about because I saw the episode of LBC when a English caller was complaining about that, and that was 3 years ago. And he said, "Mate, that's an old video." And now we have our president talking about something that they've already debunked over 10 years ago.
now there is when people talk about dementia, there is this thing where people start reaching back. Your long-term memory is sharper than your short-term, and so bringing up something from 10 years ago would be consistent, although I'm not that kind of doctor. You know, those guys actually make money. But you know, they're useful kind. But that could also just be him freewheeling and reaching back. But you know, he's doing that. He reaches back. I think he still thinks the Central Park four, was it 4 or 5?
5.
The Central Park 5. I think he thinks they're still guilty. You know, and
Well,
because he has gone back and mentioned it at times, and so he relives the greatest hits in his head of his life. So he's lying to himself. His body's playing tricks on him. Maybe his mind is playing tricks on him. Probably his staff are playing tricks on him. Probably it's a shit show.
Well, what I'll say is, and you've been very PC, Dave. Basically, he's a liar in chief. We know this. He was lying before he became president. He lies while he served his first term, between terms, and now he's lying again. So it doesn't take much. If they know exactly what motivates him, what energizes him, what gives him the, I guess, fortitude to say and continue the course that he's going, he's going to buy right into it. Because again, whether he believes it or not, he embraces it. I often say sometimes we're more willing to embrace a lie, or we're more willing to accept a lie rather than embrace the truth. And he's accepting of lies no matter where they come from, as long as they fit a certain narrative. And yeah, he's going to say, regardless of what people feed him, he's going to believe it. Or he may say something and they will conjure up that very thing using AI, like he's a fighter jet pilot and, going around, spreading feces on protesters and all that kind of crap. But this is what happens when we normalize lying. we don't even realize the long-term damage of this, because I don't see him, honestly, based from for health reasons, I don't see him lasting throughout this term. God forbid, but
We
I
both
just don't,
that.
because they're masking a lot of his issues. It's been, even reported that it's believed, he hasn't released the information, but that he may have suffered a stroke back in September. When you look at certain pictures, his mouth is twisted. You look at certain pictures or video, how he walks. He's not able to walk in a straight line. So there are a number of things that are going on with him health wise. But rather than them, when they did it with Joe Biden, they barked all day long saying they need to be truthful to the American people about Joe Biden's health, but they're not singing the same song when it comes to his health. But
Well,
he's has been given permission to just lie like a rug on the floor, and nobody has really checked him on it until he goes onto certain stations or networks where you have individuals who don't mind pushing back a little bit.
I take offense to that. Trump has had 2 physicals, and the doctors said that he has the strength of a bull
Of course,
and that he's more healthy than Obama. But why does he mention Obama so much? How much does Obama live in this guy's head?
rent
Why
free,
is he always mentioning
Rent-free,
Obama,
man.
Dave?
rent free, man. I listen.
But you know what's dangerous? People say, what's dangerous about this? It's because people will start not to like somebody and they have no reason why. They're just spread it that way. And I'm going to show you a clip that proves the exact thing. Because I always hate when somebody used to say, I couldn't stand Obama before his policies. And I'm like, what specific policy? And they could never nail down the
Not one.
Yeah,
policies that,
I find that to be the case often. Yes,
yeah, that didn't like.
I didn't like his policies.
Watch this clip from a veteran.
Obama came out. I'm not a fan of his policies or anything whatsoever. I'm not a fan of him at all. He greeted and shook everyone's hand in that room, and there was a lot of people. He went to every single person. When we went to the hangar to offload the C-17s with all these caskets, he stood at a hand salute, a very crisp one, the whole time. We're sitting down because we're like exhausted. Our backs are killing us from the pain of just operating, and that dude did not move. He was just, as much as I don't agree with his policies and all the corruption I think that he's maybe involved in, he earned some respect from me on that day. I have to give that to him. I saw it with my own eyes.
It's always
What
it's
corruption?
hold on. It's always so generic, his policies and the corruption that he was a
What
part
corruption?
of.
What
Why can't you just
corruption?
say you met the president and you realized you were wrong about every fucking thing you thought?
They didn't even have conspiracy theories about corruption. Oh, they had Whitewater. They had shit on the Clintons.
Wait,
But
man, they had a tan suit.
Obama, what? I'm just like, what corruption? What are you coming up with that is so? I mean, I to this day, I really am like, that's the thing that. And by the way, when we were talking about this, that's the exact clip I was thinking of.
Oh,
Was that
really?
guy
That
talking
one?
about that. Even though he's giving him the solid, he's giving him the respect that Obama earned from him by taking his responsibilities very seriously, which Trump thinks they're losers. Trump
He,
won't go to visit a cemetery.
I watched Obama operate in Fort Hood when we had the shooting, and he will literally go around. If there's a room of 40 soldiers, he's going to greet each and every one of them. And no differently than he greeted the captain and the private. They all get the same greeting from him. You know,
And he's probably not soliciting, he's not fishing for compliments and adulation.
no,
And
well, he knows
Obama
what
is
he's
not
there for.
recounting every conversation to him with people saying, "Sir," Trump always replays people being, just groveling because that's how he thinks they should be. Now
Because
you're getting me worked up, dude.
well, no, it's just the clips I'm showing today, have to do kind of what we're talking about. What we hear and what we see. If we're not paying attention, we get easily duped and fooled. And this is the last one. This hasn't do anything to politics, but this is
And
one
by the
I
way,
wanted to show.
let me just say, no hate on that guy. That guy was talking there. That's a solid dude, right? No hate on him. It's just I keep wondering I really want him to tell me what he's talking about.
Well, I'm
Because
not
he's
hating on.
reasonable. He's
Yeah.
a reasonable guy, and he's an operator, and he's someone who we should respect, and I would like to know. Let me make very clear: no hate on that soldier.
I was the same way because when I hear I hated his policies, and I'm like, they never say what policies. But when you hit me with the corruption he was dealing with, I'm like, okay, dude, okay, all right, dude, all right. Apparently, you're fishing in some circles I haven't fished in. I'm like, whatever, you know. Anyway, when we talk about hearing and seeing things, here's a neat little thing from Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about jury duty.
I was rejected from jury duty. There was a woman who was robbed. She said he robbed the groceries, took it, and then ran off. The cops found the guy. He was not in possession of anything she said he took. They looked in the area if anything stashed in dumpsters or anything. They didn't find anything. It's a literal he said, she said. The judge reads the particulars and goes, does anyone think they would not be able to convict based on the kind of information and evidence that's been presented? I said, yes, I'd have a problem if the only evidence available is eyewitness testimony. Then everything I know tells me I should not trust it on the level where you end up putting someone in jail. What the judge said next was, are there any other jurors who need more than one witness before they would be able to convict? And I said, should I jump in now and say, that's not what I said? What should I do? The person in front of me said, Your Honor, that's not what he said. And I said, oh, thank you. And I resisted with all my might to say, Your Honor, you were eyewitness to what I said 20 seconds ago and got it.
I love him.
I wish he would have said it. It's just
First of all, though, who lets Neil deGrasse Tyson on a jury? What lawyer lets that happen?
Yeah,
I don't get on juries. They hear I'm a professor. I'm gone. You know?
They don't want you to. They don't want people who can think. They want people who can be easily swayed to whatever argument they make.
They also don't want people that will. They don't want professors in jury rooms because we'll screw it up.
Yeah,
we'll screw up.
You're implying that they want the uneducated. That's what you're implying.
You'll be the one guy to go.
Sounds a little Trumpish.
They don't want people. They don't want lawyers. They don't want experts on the area. Yeah. And the last thing they want is an egghead in there confusing everybody.
Yeah. They don't want Dave raising his hand going, wait a minute. So he doesn't look like the culprit. He's not the same height, the same weight, or reportedly the same ethnicity, but I'm the only one that's going to say not guilty. I have a problem here.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, it's actually very common. You tell me you're a political scientist, forget about it.
So
you
that's
ain't
what
getting on a jury.
Oh, you just got
any lawyer worth their salt will challenge your ass. The prosecution and defense will be saying, "Are you going to do it, or am I going to do it?" Yeah,
it's
neither one wants me around.
It's just troubling and maddening to me when I look, and I know people say, social media shouldn't, but everybody's on social media now. So it's not like there's just a bunch of idiots that are just on social media and they're the worst of society. Everybody's on social media now. And how people are so easily duped and have their emotions pulled, and they're screaming hatred about something that isn't even true. Isn't even true. But they will fight for it tooth and nail.
That's when again, we've normalized lying. We're back to our original premise. We've normalized lying in our society, and people stand on it 10 toes down. Even though they may get their foot chopped off, they're still going to stand on their lie.
Yeah. Well, somebody asked me a question, Dave, and you can answer it better than me because I'm not educated in this realm. Term limits. Because, people will say, can he get it changed to where the term limits are changed? And somebody said, well, there used to not be term limits. And then after FDR not FDR, which Roosevelt was it?
It was FDR.
Yeah, after FDR, it got amended to have term limits. So why can't it be changed if it was changed before?
Well, because it's a constitutional amendment. And as Mike Johnson put it, it would take 10 years to get it changed. The bar to changing a constitutional amendment is really, really high. Okay. And you won't.
It's not just putting in an amendment to the amendment.
You're right. You can't do it. And it was interesting. Mike Johnson was talking to this point, and he's basically like, look, this is trolling. This is, and this is not going to happen. I think it's moot because Trump's not going to be either alive or competent to stand for re-election. But the there are, you cannot be, the exact wording of the 22nd Amendment is you can only be elected president twice. And that particular wording is to, carves out an exception for people who ascend to the presidency through like the vice presidency. And I'd have to look at the timing, but if you think about it, Truman had been in there before, right? Truman, and it
Mhm.
might, I got to see exactly when this amendment was done, but Truman had become president. I think he ran twice. The idea was Truman could finish out FDR's term and then run for president twice. And I
Mhm.
think that's why the electing thing, there's nothing about it being consecutive or non-consecutive.
Mhm.
Right. Now, there are some fever dreams or fan fiction being written that they could have Republicans win, and either Trump could be the vice presidential candidate, and then the president resigns to let Trump in, or even more, if you don't think he could qualify to be vice president because he can't assume the presidency, you could have a Republican administration. Congress, if you had a Republican Congress, they could make Trump the Speaker of the House, because the Speaker of the House does not have to be a
Oh dear God.
member of
Okay,
Congress.
you're gonna give me nightmares.
And then, but I mean, we are now at a level of absurdity that two people would have to give up the presidency in favor of Trump. And that's a level of, you know, no, if you met, I don't think JD Vance would do it, right? Once
Okay.
he was
Oh
president, I think he'd
crap.
hang on to it. And, but that's what that all says. It can't be changed. And Mike Johnson, I think, had the right of it. He was like, he even said, "No, this is move on. Let's not even talk about this. It's not going to happen."
A couple things, because again, so many things happened while between both of ours. There's certain people on MAGA that are MAGA supporters, and the MAGA people don't even give them hell. Like we already talked, me and you talked about our buddy Vivek, who still wants to ride that train and get just torn apart everywhere he goes. We know Cash Patel. He tweeted out Happy Diwali, Diwali Day and just got ripped to shreds by the MAGA crowd about go with your sand gods and all of that. And it's funny because the Diwali symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and the knowledge over ignorance. That's the irony of what that festival is supposed to be about. And then JD Vance himself, he doesn't. This is the part where it makes me a creep. They talk so much crap about his wife, he doesn't even defend her against the MAGA crowd.
Never
Doesn't
once.
even defend her or says anything. And we didn't even have time because this happened too. The young Republican thing that happened. All the kids on there saying bad thing. Those kids will be kids.
Boys will be
Y'all
boys.
complain that we compare Trump to these guys, and then you're all, I mean, the things they're doing, they're embracing Nazism, they're
Yeah,
embracing anti-Semitism,
yeah,
and seem to be wallowing in it like it's cool, right? They're saying it like kids say 6, 7,
yeah.
and and it's like, what, this is just disgusting and wrong. That guy who had the flag with the swastika on it,
Yeah.
I mean,
The American flag with the swastika in it.
yeah,
The
where they
American
changed the
flag.
thing and they embedded it in the stripes. And you know, I'm not gonna say anything violent or threatening, but man, do not have that around me. I highly, I don't know how I would react. I'd be like, talk about Antifa. I pledged to Antifa. It was called the United States Army then in 1984, and I feel like, I'd be triggered. I would use my words a little bit, but
Did you say 1984?
yes,
Jesus Christ, I was in elementary school.
I'm old. I was defending us against the God.